Welcome to the Awakening Together channel. This is our Satsang with Sarah St. Clair. You can find out more about Sarah on her website, thismysticlife.org. And you can find out more information on our non-dual website, awakening-together.org. Thank you again for watching. We hope you enjoy the Satsang.
So good to see you, Sarah.
You too.
Yeah. I met you years and years ago, and you were such a light then, and it's just a thrill to see you again. So thank you for tonight. Thank you for agreeing to do this. This is my first interview with Satsang, so you'll bear with me. And
wonderful. We can be totally natural together.
There you go. I've been told the best way to get this started is to read your bio, and then we'll go from there. How about that?
Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah St. Clair is a mystic devoted to the present peace that awakening offers. Has been inspired by the non-dual teachings of A Course in Miracles and the good news of the gospel. Called to lead a spirit-led life with many adventures of forgiveness, Sarah's gift is her ability to share the answer that is being joined in the Holy Spirit offers to everyone. She relays this eternal truth of clarity, comfort, and trust through parables and metaphors, making it universal and accessible to all. Sarah has led Satsangs, gatherings, and retreats all over the world, both in person and online. She frequently clarifies how to apply the metaphysics of A Course in practical and joyful ways, like with her animated 90 Days of Forgiveness series on YouTube. Oh, that's so good. Those are so good. Her live ACIM show on ACIM Live and her writings on This Mystic Life. Lit by the light of love, Sarah demonstrates that this is a benevolent universe, a wake-up world, and a mirror for the mind. For more information about Sarah, you can visit her website, thismysticlife.org, or her many social media platforms, including YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Spreaker. All right. So again, welcome, Sarah.
Thank you for inviting me. It's lovely to see you all.
Yeah, it's so great to have you here. I guess your bio, I'm not surprised, doesn't talk very much about Sarah personally. But I did hear that you got started with ACIM because you ordered a book and got the wrong book.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't have considered myself to be someone on a spiritual path at all. And I had felt this deep call in my life, though, to step away from what I had been doing and simplify. And so I moved back to the country town where I'm from in Ireland and helped my mom out in the bookshop there. That was a miracle as well. And while I was there, I started going through old boxes of my dad's. He had passed away a couple of years before then, and we had taken everything and put it in this shed. And as I went through each of these books, his friends, who were all spiritual, had given him all these books, but they'd never been opened, because he was more a natural absorber of things like that. And he was just a natural mystic, probably himself, into nature and being in presence and being out in the wild. And so I read through each of these different books that were just happened to be there, pretty light, Paulo Coelho and things like that. But all of them referenced this A Course in Miracles book at the back. And so I was like, well, that sounds fun, being able to do miracles. So I thought I was ordering a self-help book. So that's what I thought I was ordering. And when it came into the store, I was on my own unboxing the books. And I hadn't even looked at how much it cost, because I'm ordering it through the bookstore that we work in. And I opened it and I looked and I was like, oh no. The very second I saw the, no, I opened it, saw the thin paper and the detail. I was like, oh no. um, I'd been raised a Catholic, but what I noticed was for these next 30 minutes, nobody came into the store, and I was on my own because my mom had just taken a break. So I'm literally standing on my own in the store with this book, and I can feel this incredible presence. But the fear also came up because the intimacy was so strong. And so I got on the phone immediately and I called the wholesaler and said, I'm sorry, but you seem to have sent me a Course in Miracles, the wrong Course in Miracles. There must be one of the same title by another author. I'm trying to find the author, flipping around, and the woman who I would deal with on a daily basis and the wholesalers went quiet. And then she says, no, Sarah, there's only one. And I just remember saying, oh, okay, thanks. And I hung up the phone, and it was such an incredible experience that my heart was pounding, and I stood there looking at it going, I don't know what this is. But my first thought was like, I think I'm getting indoctrinated into a cult. Just the feeling of the book. I haven't even opened it. Like, I've literally seen Christian language and I'm like shaking because it was so commanding. The presence of the moment was so incredible. And I stood there looking, my heart pounding and not knowing what to do, like standing there, like almost frozen. And a voice inside said, it's just a book, Sarah. You can close it anytime you like. Oh, okay. And I know, I thought that was beautiful too, right? That didn't faze me. I didn't seem to notice that until, a couple of weeks, like a few days later, I was like, wait a minute. And so I flicked it open and it flipped to nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. And I went, okay, yeah, I totally agree with that. And yet it was the complete answer to a prayer that I've been putting out for months. It just came so unbidden that I didn't have any framework. I didn't know the word awakening. I didn't know spiritual terms. I didn't know about enlightenment. I'd never heard that word. I didn't know any of these things. I was really young. Like, I had no clue of any of these things. I just knew this was the answer to the prayer. So what did I do? I put it on layaway. Because it was so expensive. And I'm now just working in this small bookshop and I'm like paying it off to like $2 a week or something, talk about putting it off, and the voice inside went, you do own the shop, Sarah. So I don't think anyone would mind if you took it home before you've been fully paid off. And I'm like, okay. And I hid it in a brown bag and a paper bag, and I took it home. But immediately, and I mean immediately, and I started on page 1 because I didn't even know there was a workbook because I hadn't gotten to that page. It was the answer to everything I'd been asking for immediately. And every day I felt so relieved. And so I even took a cut in the hours I was working in the shop, so down to 13 hours, so I could really just put my whole heart into this answer. And then, I've just moved back from a cosmopolitan city with a cosmopolitan type, life. And I'm living with my mother. My sister moves home, her little child. We're all working in the shop together. There's tons of forgiveness opportunities. And so it was really profoundly daily, the answer, everything I would apply of what was said every day. And that was coming mostly from the text at first. And then I moved into the workbook when I realized it was there. And I was told again, you can skip ahead. It's okay. You can start the workbook while you keep reading. So mine was so innocent and so unobserved. There was no one telling me what to do. For 4 more years, I didn't even meet anyone else who'd even heard of it. It was like a secret. Wow. And it was transforming my life. And I put all my trust into it. Like, I just gave way to this answer that had come into my life. So it was a very intimate experience immediately. And it was an entire relationship,
So you said I put all my trust. I know that A Course in Miracles talks about the importance of trust. I think in the teacher's manuals, that's the first characteristic of a teacher. And I know when you're 90 days of forgiveness that you talk about that trust. Would you like to talk about that trust a little bit?
Yeah. I think trust is very intimate. And like any relationship, there's a development of trust. And so whether you've ever seen A Course in Miracles or not, because I know that this is an eclectic group who some have reference of it and some don't. It doesn't matter for what I'm going to share with you today, because the trust is in what A Course in Miracles calls the Holy Spirit. Some people would call it their higher power, their higher self. It's the one who loves you and knows what's best for you in all circumstances, and everyone else too. You can't beat having a guide like that, really, because it's humbling. Immediately you're aware there's no way you can have that level of awareness of the entire universe and every seeming consequence of a decision. And so it really encourages that development of trust, that nurturing of that relationship, that leaning in. And it really is like being, a small child who just understands that it doesn't know, but this one does. And this one loves you. And for me, that's the significance here. And that was palpable to me immediately. I'd had good trust in the Holy Spirit in principle. In fact, the trust I had in the Holy Spirit was so strong because for those first 4 years, I didn't realize Jesus was the one speaking in the Course. Now, that probably seems incredible to some of you, but I was like, but it's the voice for God. And my friend who I met sometime later said, yes, but it's actually Jesus. It says it's Jesus speaking. And I went, wow, there's more reason to trust. Imagine an entire course that is speaking to you so intimately, because this is what it is. It's a communication. It's not really a book. It's definitely not something you study and learn something about. It's a relationship. And imagine something so intimate that the very thing that might make you a little queasy or a little apprehensive is just not relevant. Even though it's the core of the book, is not relevant if you are able to receive it through the idea that it's the voice for God, the Holy Spirit that's just speaking. I thought that was incredible. And that's where, and because of the way I received it, how I learned that this development of trust was warranted. This trust was warranted. And I knew that because I practiced it every day and I tried it out and I tested the Holy Spirit and I tested this link and I tested this guidance system. And I just found miracle after miracle compared to the way I'd been previously living my life, trying to be a good person, trying to consider what everyone thought, trying to make out, like, how would that work out? Would they like it? Would they not? Which is excruciatingly painful and doesn't work out anyway. Even with the best will in the world, it doesn't work out from a personal level. So that's what the trust is for me. And it's available to everyone. And I just caught the end of your last session, and I really feel that, however you are guided, it's by a loving system that absolutely knows you, loves you, and all your foibles, and everyone else, and all their foibles too. And it's really that it's guiding the mind home. And so if you can hand over, the very small things of the world, like everything, and relax back into the love and the acceptance that's being asked of you, because the trust that really is developing with A Course in Miracles, that you're only being asked to accept that forgiveness has been done for you. You're not being asked to do forgiveness. It's so different. I've met people who've studied the Course for 20, 40 years and have still forgotten that it's just about saying, oh, wow, thank you. Okay. Thank you. Because the level of redundancy it makes, of this personality, character, self you think you are, is so extreme that we keep glossing over that, that it's all been done, it's all the past. And all you're being asked to do in this moment is to sink back into the safety, security of the comforter, and that everything's okay and nothing ever went wrong or right. It's just all okay, no matter what.
Wow. I took a note here that you said, and let me know if I misquote you, because I was writing quickly. But
That's okay.
Our devotion is to the present moment and the acceptance of what has already been given. I think that's what you're speaking to. Can you tell us why our devotion to the present moment is so critical?
Yes. A Course in Miracles, I seem to keep having to reference it for my own mind, so it must be we've a big course group with us in this moment. A Course in Miracles speaks what seems like on two levels. And it's important to understand that the present moment is beyond time. It's beyond this world. And so it's an invitation into it. It seems like being present as a person and not being constantly haggard by the past or furtive about the future stills you into this quietness and then this more spacious and eternal experience that is not relevant to anything or relating to anything of the world. Nothing is causing this spaciousness or softness or quietness. And so in coming into the present moment, or as the Course calls it, even the holy instant, and accepting the atonement for ourselves, which means that everything is forgiven, that we can just be relieved of the illusory nature of push, pull, struggle, that there's anything we need to do, because everything that we do here is motivated by some form of fear. Even, the desire to awaken is not the same as the desire for peace. And so just to come back into that experience, to really, it's so humbling, and then just to accept like the grandeur of that. This has been given to you. You did nothing to earn it. It's just your inheritance. It's the gift from God. It's so incredible, and it's always now. It can't be any other time. You can't prepare for the holy instant. You can't prepare to go to the Holy Spirit and try and be better before you go. You must just go as you are. See, there's no perfecting of the self-concept or the person before this happens. In fact, it's the acceptance of the non-perfection and the complete yielding and the complete inability to change anything that allows us to come wholeheartedly to the one who loves us, to be given a guidance and a relaxation and a way of being in the world and a happy dream, till we can fully allow that to feel safe for us. You're not going to be hurled into heaven.
I love that. I was reading earlier that you said something like, if we're having trouble receiving guidance, it's because we're afraid of what we're going to hear, and we're afraid maybe we're going to be asked to sacrifice. But as you pointed out earlier, and when you got the Course in Miracles book, you can simply ignore what the Holy Spirit has to say if you're that afraid. So don't be afraid. Just at least go ahead and ask the Holy Spirit. And you go on to say that guidance is simply listening to how much you're loved. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's really where it changes, it shifts. You know, we all come to any spiritual pathway with a history of our understanding of the world. And if you've come from Christian traditions, which are admonishing you and talking about sin and guilt and hell and, you know, things like that, you know, just it's contrary to just open up to an idea of this love that comes without perfecting of something, without improvement. But that's the love that's being offered, you know, and so it has to be, you know, a development of trust. And you're given this whole big book to study, you know, till you can come around, till you can feel safe enough to put that down, and that you've got the Holy Spirit, you know, on your team. And it really, that's the difference. There's nothing to be afraid of in hearing anything from the Holy Spirit. And hearing doesn't just mean a voice. In feeling what's guided for you, because it's it's divine providence. It's what's guided for the mind to awaken safely. Guidance looks like perhaps things in form, activities, go here, there, do that, give so-and-so a call, you know, or your favorite TV program's on, whatever it is, the Holy Spirit loves you. And it's a way to feel safe. It's all about safety. It's all about safety. Yet if we've misplaced our trust in a system that is not safe for us, that is unsafe because it's against us, then we need to place it into one which is. So that's the development of trust. But you can just lean back in there, and you only waken from happy dreams. Like, that's the biggest testament and witness in the course to you're going to like this, because you only waken from happy dreams. So it has to seem to appeal to the basic nature of the character. Eventually, the awakening is just a shift in identity from the character sense of self to who you are in truth. And so you're not dependent on the storyline of the character working out anymore to be happy. It becomes irrelevant. It's like a flattening out of everything. It's not the focus. You're not picking one person over the other. You know, the I that I'm speaking from could as easily be Connie today. Those eyes. It's not, you don't keep picking out and identifying and fixating on one character. That's the softening that comes. And when you're taking guidance from one that loves everyone equally, the trust is that it works out better. In my experience, it works out better for everyone. Definitely, even in things that seemed unlikely at the beginning.
Yeah, sweet. Thank you. I will say, I can't see if anybody's raising their hands to ask questions. You certainly are welcome to. I think Sarah's more than receptive to that. I've got lots of questions, but I certainly will share Sarah with the rest of you all. When you're in your teachings, you speak a lot of forgiveness and a couple of places you talk about forgiveness knows we are mistaken about everything we're seeing.
Yes.
Forgiveness is knowing form doesn't bring happiness. So really what we're saying is that you can't depend on sight at all. And when you stop depending on sight, that is forgiveness. Am I close to saying that anywhere near correct?
Yes, the acceptance of forgiveness, because this is again this glorious answer today. It's like the acceptance of forgiveness means you accept. It's accepting that what your brother did not do to you. You know, it's accepting. Forgiveness is looking upon the world, and that includes, you know, from behind the eyes of the character now, including the character sitting in front of the computer, looking out, you know, at the garden. It includes that level of watching and seeing it doesn't tell you who you are, though it can be used as a wake-up world to reflect who you're not and show you where you're still attached or still have beliefs or doubt thoughts even, that it's safe to accept this. because, obviously that's what's puppeting us. And that's where we need to accept that everything's already being forgiven, because all our doings are actually reinforcing and keeping us, on the hamster wheel, because they're keeping us running, keeping the whole show going. So it's the way we look at the world and what we use it for. It's either against us or it's a benevolent universe. So, it's like everything's a miracle or nothing's a miracle. You got to choose, for yourself, or not choose and be happy. How you feel is not coming from what you see is an effect. It's coming from the desires and beliefs and thoughts and feelings that are being held in the mind. And that's the reflection. It's literally a mirror of it. Now, you don't want to change the reflection, because how will you straighten your tie? How will you align the mind? And I don't mean personally, it's the mind. It's like, how can you align with the truth of who you are if you keep wanting to change the mirror? It would be like getting lipstick and rubbing it over, where you spilled toothpaste on your red top, and you've got your mirror is getting really confused because it was accurately reflecting things you didn't like to pique your interest in the beliefs and desires in your mind. And now you're just trying to fuddle with it. And that's why manifesting doesn't work, because that's suggesting a person is manifesting something rather than a reflection of the mind. It's like, why would you want to change a perfectly clear mirror, or at least a clearing mirror in the moments you can remember what it's for, when it's going to show you something like a wing mirror does that you can't see ordinarily? You really want to receive the gift of everything that's coming towards you. It's all for you. It's all for awakening. And acceptance of what is doesn't mean you like it or that you think it's the ideal way things would be in the storyline. It just means you accept that it's ideal for awakening. And it has something to share with you. Not a lesson like an admonishment now. It has clarification. There's a clarification that your thinking is wrong, that you're just simply mistaken. And that if you look once again with the Holy Spirit, it can be revealed just where you're out of alignment in the mind, attitudinally. Not in form, not like you did something wrong.
All that. Let me see.
Question. Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Hey, Sarah, it's Jacqueline. How are you?
Hi, Jacqueline.
Nice to see you.
You too.
You said it's all for awakening, and you also talked about the softening that comes. And I just so I have a couple of questions based on that. First of all, well, do you equate the two? Because it seems to me that awakening is always with us. It's not like some finish line that you cross at the end, right?
Yes.
But and I love that you call it softening, because that's exactly my experience of it, right? You just drop in and it's just soft. It's a beautiful way to describe that. So I guess that's the question: is how would you describe awakening, and wouldn't you say that that's always there and not a finish line that you cross?
Yes, absolutely. And again, acceptance, immediate acceptance of forgiveness, as the Course describes it, is according to its pathway, how it describes it, how awakening happens. Remember, the mind awakens, people don't awaken. So this looking around for like a character's development and then ding, like you're saying, rather than a softening of the witness and a seeing that the thinker and the thoughts are one, the reflection and the witness are one, and yet not that at the same time, is the softening. It's just the softening of the making one or the other. It's the softening of there being two where there's a rub. There's no conflict because there's no opposition, there's no other, there's nothing to hit. It's just all happening in front of what seems to be a you. It's just a witnessing to it. And this softness is completely a permeable kind of, words are limited, but permeable experience. So there isn't other, and there isn't anything to argue with. And the description, as if there's two things, which you're asking about, is simultaneous. That's what's there when there isn't peace. And when there's peace, there's just peace. And yet it's constantly there. There isn't anything special at all to do. There's just an invitation to that soft acceptance. That's how I would describe it.
It's lovely. Thank you.
Marisol has a question for us.
Hi. Hi, Sarah. Thank you for
Hi.
being here with all of us.
Hello.
So, I really loved the description that you were giving about with the reflection. And the reason why that really piqued my interest is because I recently had an experience where in form, it really was not pleasant at all. And a lot of times I stumble in feeling like I'm regressing or there's no progress. I don't know if I 100% believe that anymore, but when things out there are not looking or going as smoothly as the person here thinks that it should be, like the happy dream, or why is everything just not working out? And I just would love if you could just talk a little bit more about that. Because like I said, I feel like I stumble and I'm really desiring clarity on that. So I can just let that go. So thank you.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. That's the rub. That's the push-pull of what's up to me? What can I do? Who's the me? So this push-pull of relaxation, and the reflection can never tell you who you are. So we can have this idea that when things are in flow and it's all gliding and it's looking good and it's all epic according to taste, that's good. And then when it's crunchy and there looks like there's conflict and there's all this other things not on the preference list, definitely probably not on how we'd like the self-concept of the character to look, somehow it's getting hit left, right, and center, failing, flailing, whatever. The acceptance, again, is the shift in identity. The character is never going to be happy. Character's life is never going to work out. Just remember how Jesus's life, according to the story and the witness of just basic history, finished. It didn't look at all like you would imagine, and the apostles were devastated by this. It should work out, right? It looked like a disappointment. And, obviously the resurrection is the answer to that, but the answer for you is also the resurrection, because that's the acceptance. That is the happiness, that is the peace, that is the complete peel back. That is the acceptance, that it isn't causing the distress that you're feeling, because it would seem like a cruel world if we keep believing that the world is causing how you feel, you see. It just means you have a huge call for an immediate experience of what I would like to call relief, right? Because you can always choose to want to be relieved. And it doesn't work against what's happening if it's for you, according to some people who are telling us that, like me. And it doesn't negate the current authentic experience of the character that you're having. By saying you would like relief, by joining with the Holy Spirit and asking for that relief, by undoing that level of responsibility for the whole thing, and even metaphysically the dynamic, and how does that work, and what am I supposed to do? The calling for help is the highest thing that you can do for relieving the whole scenario. Even the idea of being the one who's looking to be rid of pain or going for awakening or anything, or even the one who wants peace. So it's like, Holy Spirit, choose for God for me, choose this peace for me. I'm so muddled right now. I can't even see how this is. And at times like that, it can also be very beneficial to join with a mighty companion just to check. It usually, in my experience, means we've decided we did do something a little bit wrong. And we're trying super hard to correct that and hoping it can all come right. So it's not just the expectation we have on the world we're looking upon, on the character that we're expecting to perform for us. It's also the slight defense that's left in there, you see, that's building against us, where we're scrambling. And that's also what would have us not go to the Holy Spirit and delay that going to our higher power or our mighty companion because we're ashamed. That shame is what's keeping us from accepting forgiveness and just going, yeah, does that help? It's that push-pull. It's always something good. It's always something that you're trying to do that's good that will be making that dynamic really crazy, extra crazy, despite your absolute devotion and willingness and, to your path, whatever you believe. I think it's the trying to do something that you believe is good will have you across purposes with acceptance of what is and exposing the shame and the guilt that's keeping the dynamic going and stopping you having let's call it a bigger look with a broader, non-personal eye that can go, look, it's like this little character. It's like, and like, it's like turning you around, when you're playing a video game and your character's faced into the corner of the wall and you can see nothing and you can't get out of it and you can't turn around. It's like, you just turn, like this incredible relief for just being mistaken. It's literally never more than a tiny tweak away. It's incredible. The whole world can seem to have gone to hell for you. Everything can appear to be horrific. And it is that tiny tweak in our looking. And that's what the Course calls correction, which just means finding out you're mistaken but loved and not abandoned, and that it's not up to you to fix it, you see. You have to go, okay, hands off. I don't know anything. I don't know what's happening, but I would like to be relieved of how I feel, because I recognize I don't like how I feel, and we can always agree on that. So.
Yeah, that's very helpful. And the pointing of always, and that's what did eventually bring relief, was just the accepting of what was playing out and not identifying with it, because that then just brings up compassion. So
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marisol. Thank you, Sarah. I took some notes, and it said, maybe you said, we need to be happy to be open to the miracle.
Oh, yes. That's part of the development of trust. A lot of people think of trust as like tightrope walking or something over a cliff. And I'm like, that's not trust. That's fear. That's terrifying. Trust is something you could ask a 2-year-old to do, which is take one step into your loving arms, and then you'll move back a little if they're enjoying themselves. That's trust, right? So it's just, it has to feel fun. If it's not feeling like something you can easily do, I would say either that's not the guidance, as in you've misunderstood the step you're being asked to take. But this idea of feel the fear and do it anyway, and like pushing ourselves into something, that's not the way the Spirit operates. That's actually not the way, It's more like the Tao. It's more like you just find yourself leaning into something because you first looked at the conditions underneath the fear. So suppose you've been asked to do something, or something seems to be coming in for you or coming towards you, but like our last example, then it really is about looking at the beliefs and the desires and whatever may be coming up in the mind that is bringing up the fear. Now, the fear is already there because it's kept in place by these beliefs and desires, like the desire to do a good job. It's as simple as that. The belief that you've never done this thing before and you don't know how to do it, any of those things. And so Jesus asks us to not give him our fear, but to ask for help to look at the conditions that keep the fear in place. And those conditions might get flushed up at the thought of embarking on something that might seem new. But I would say you are not to take that step until you see you're mistaken about what you're being asked actually entails and what it really is. When you see it correctly with the Spirit, it's like, oh, yeah, I can do that. As long as you don't get ahead of yourself, as long as you just do the next indicated step, it's never hard and it's never harsh. Your heart might be pounding just as you get in your development of trust. But I would say join with a mighty companion and get really clear about what's being asked of you, especially one who doesn't share your view on the world. Is very helpful. Someone who sees things differently to you, one who loves you, and will go, oh, you have no problem with that. Oh, I think you'll have a great time. Like that they just see it differently to you. They don't think you're going to mess it up. They think you're beautiful and gorgeous and wonderful. And they don't have that like list that you're running through before you do any activity. So that's the Holy Spirit you want to be having. That's what I mean by happy. It doesn't have to be ecstatic, but it need not, it should not be, I would say it should not be fearful. If it's fearful, then you just need to spend more time in that moment with the Spirit, because that's all the guidance is for anyway. It's just to get you into the comforter and just soft and relaxed, and it's all okay again. There's nothing to worry about. That's all it's for. You're not really doing anything. You're home in heaven dreaming. You can't mess this up at all. Every time it's just coming back into that. It's like a small chick leaning into a big feathery, hen.
Thank you. Beautiful. True. So here's another quote. Freedom is in the mind because freedom of the body you cannot have if you want freedom of the mind. You cannot have both.
Yes, that sounds like a paraphrasing of a course quote.
Okay.
And freedom of the body or freedom of the mind, for both you cannot have, is really that invitation to softness and that stepping back and to be relieved entirely. And I use, relieved as a synonym for for, I would call it a safe passageway to peace. Sometimes peace sounds like an attainment to people when you say it. Sometimes it sounds like something they have to do and push down what's not that. We're talking about a peace that passes understanding. We're talking about a peace that more you sink into, that is always present and is completely unconditional. It doesn't mean the absence of something or an addition of something for it to be present. And freedom of the body is the will to have things the way you would want, forgetting that God's will and yours are one, and that God knows what makes you happy and that you don't. So this is part of the humbling of the seeming journey, that you don't know what would make you happy, and the freedom to run around and be the character self will have you winding up in corners where you don't know what you're doing. And so the trust is that there is no hatred. There's some talk at the end of the last talk that there's no hatred of the little character either. I think this is very important. And so it's almost like a little avatar that you're giving over in safety and saying, look, I'm going to give this over in care to you. I'm not only going to give this character that I think I am and this little body, I'm going to give all the little bodies I love and, this country and this planet and this universe and everything I have affection for. And I'm going to say I recognize I'm not doing a great job of this, but then I also recognize it's not my job to run the universe. And that the whole thing is a mistake. And so I want to be relieved of this sense of panic and urgency that I must keep doing something about it. And that's what people call freedom of the body, the freedom to do whatever they want about the upset in the mind or the experience of upset they're having, to try their way to fix it. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work in form because the upset's not coming from the form. So freedom of the mind, where you can never be imprisoned, where you recognize you're already free, and you come and you invite that state of being and you accept that that's the truth of who you are already, is a totally different orientation. And from there, if any doings are needed, they will be joyful again. No matter what the seeming exterior looks like, you could be in the middle of a war zone. I once had a petrol bomb thrown at my house. And I remember the first thing I did was to choose peace and to stand there and pray and go, okay. And there were flames running up the side of the house. And I had to make that choice because, that's what my life was becoming devoted to. So this is very practical. Freedom of the body or freedom of the mind. You do want the freedom of the mind because your will and God's are one, and you were born free. You were created free, eternally free. And the mesmerism is the prison, and we can live in very pretty prisons that look like we have freedoms of the body, but that's nothing compared to the realization of the freedom of who you are.
Thank you. It's Jacqueline's got a message here. Let's see. We're talking about peace that is always present and completely unconditional. It doesn't require the presence of something or the absence of something to be present. That's she's repeating you. So thank you.
Yeah.
Can I ask
It's
another
your
question?
birthright.
Sorry.
You're entitled to miracles, like it's our birthright. Like, how incredible is that? Like, you can have freedom of the body, you can go fighting for causes in the world, or you can accept your birthright. And it's also the birthright of the perception of the multitude of everyone else, every living being, plant, rock, universe, star. It's a release from the conditions of fear. It's a total release from false cause and effect. It's back to first cause, and that you are an effect in the mind of God, at home, in peace, dreaming, never having left, never having been abandoned. And, if we're civically minded, that has to be the choice. That has to be the choice. You get to choose for everyone. You get to choose this.
Wow.
Choose this first. If there are any helpful doings that you get sent on to center deeper down while it unfolds into this being your constant state of mind, choose freedom of the mind. Choose to accept your inheritance. Choose to simply say, thank you. I don't know how this works, but thank you. I'll have it. Yes, I'll take it.
I had what I was calling a mystical experience one time when I was being told that that I was not responsible for, or there was no truth. I can't remember now exactly. There was no truth and child abuse. It wasn't true. That there was no real suffering in the world. That none of it was true, and it felt like one big gush of relief. And I think that's what you're speaking.
Yeah, it's not your fault. You know, this experience of it's not your fault and it's not your responsibility. And even though there seemed to be hurt or harm or distress, it's not your fault and it's not your responsibility to address it either. Jesus goes, leave the ego to me. And I love that. I love that. Leave the ego to me. And it's like, yeah, I'm with him, what he said. Like, okay, my job is to go, ow, like I hurt, I feel bad, I don't feel good, I'm not at peace. And bring it just raw without like a plan to fix it, you know, because it's not your fault and it's not your responsibility. The fixing has been done. Acceptance that it was fixed and that was sufficient is the answer. And even in Christianity in the Western world, they've totally like scrapped that element. Only in the Christian Greek Orthodox Church do they have paintings of Jesus with, on one hand, grabbing out Eve and on the other, grabbing out Adam from the tombs as part of the resurrection, reminding you that everyone, past, present, and future, everyone of all time. Now, what did Adam and Eve do? Weren't they kicked out for doing it all wrong? Weren't they told it was their fault? No. In the resurrection of the mind that is yours, everyone, it's ollie income free, like everyone is brought back into that state perpetually. And no matter how well we think we're doing, we are still getting up on a daily basis and an old style atoning for things. It's just like, okay, I wasn't great yesterday, I'll just do better today. And this is the original letting yourself off the hook, you know, and I'm so glad of your example for sharing that with us, because that is it. That's why the poignancy of the like, sense of relief, that's what acceptance feels like. And then it's like flooded with gratitude. Thank you.
Jacqueline, did you have a question?
Actually, I think Sarah's addressed it. I was going to ask about, here in Louisville recently, we've had a couple of those mass shootings, and I really think what you all have discussed has answered my question. And just, I mean, how do we process those sorts of things?
Yes.
Yeah.
Authentically. Yeah. In moment by moment, second by second, whatever's coming through, it's very helpful to allow it to play through. These characters that we've been given are on the screen for us to watch. We must allow them to play through whatever is unfolding for the mind to see the bigger picture and awaken and be relieved. It's the mind that discovers it's not its fault. It's the mind that discovers that the interplay between all on the screen, whatever way it looks, whether it looks right one day or very, very, very wrong and distressing the next, it's the seeing of the play and then finding the innocence. And when I say finding, I don't mean by trying to forgive. I mean, literally the innocence of the whole play of awakening, of everyone doing their best on a daily basis to find their way to relieve the suffering they're experiencing. And that's what's playing out continuously. And there's like 10 billion ways in every second that it's playing out. The thing is that this is all happening simultaneously. And sometimes when you take time off something you're watching and allow it to be collapsed as you watch, the forgiveness and the acceptance can come even quicker, because we're all aware that eventually we'll find relief and peace. We're also aware that we don't seem to have it right now. And so I would ask for it to be collapsed for you. I would ask for the relief to be given to you and for the clarity in the moment. But first I would go with whatever is present and be with the Holy Spirit and allow yourself to be comforted in whatever way is helpful. And, you know, this, you're being comforted by one who absolutely knows and loves you. You know, I mean, this is what Jesus accepted for himself. This is what he offered the apostles. And this is what's being offered to us through this course once again. So very authentic, you know. People are always like, what says in the course, things like, you know, anger is not justified. It's like, it doesn't say you're not allowed to be angry. It just says, don't keep trying to connect why you think you're angry with some story in the world. Be raging, be infuriated, be heartbroken, be devastated, and go to the Spirit. And the invitation with that line is to not know exactly why that upset is really there. Find the original upset, so that the multiplicity of these things that seem to keep playing out to show us that distress can relax back in the mind. We're only seeing these things. I'm not saying they're happening because of. We're only seeing these distressing things to show us there's already an upset that is so deeply buried that we can't get to without this help, without this visual. We're not talking about without bad things happening to good people. We're talking about without the awareness that the upset and the outpicturing is coming from somewhere else. It's very important. It's not mixed up with the New Age thing for people that you're not causing your reality. It's a reflection of what you believe. It isn't happening at that level at all. And you must first deal with yourself and deal with how you feel very authentically, as if a person in the world, by going to the comforter. And when ready, this awareness can come back in and this softening can happen to allow you to come into a sense of presence that can see what is without that false responsibility or that feeling of having done something wrong or someone else having done something wrong, coming back in and, you know, taking away your freedom of the mind again. The freedom of the mind for everyone, you know.
It's a beautiful answer. Spot on. Thank you so much. Yeah. Connie, Joy had her hand up a while ago too. I don't know if she still wants to comment.
Joy, go ahead, please.
Hi, Joy.
Joy, are you there? No.
Connie,
Hey. Hi. Yeah. Hey, you guys.
Hello.
Hi. Sorry. Hi. You guys have a good memory because that was a while ago.
Sorry.
I love
These two, they are awesome.
Yeah, are awesome.
I love that.
Totally. And I love what you're saying because in the past few years, what's come across from Jesus through another woman, what he was teaching her was that these very hidden beliefs that you just mentioned, it's not that we're creating at this level that, you know, there might be some misunderstanding about, it's about what's really hidden there. And that there's actually, the ego is desiring, it's like relishing those experiences. And so to really go deep to find out what those core beliefs are, but then have him reveal it. And just the experiences of light that have happened to me when I sit there and go, oh my gosh, it's the desire to be right, where I would have thought, I'm not even like that. You know, I'm really laid back and it's like, oh my God, that's in there, you know, and it's just been remarkable. So do you have any thoughts and comments on that?
Yeah, I think it's great. You can be the screaming harridan in the corner, and that can bring complete release from the character self, just as easy as seeming to come down into a deep meditative state and, you know, be content. Because the awakening is the release of identity of the character sense of self and the complete expansion of the all-inclusiveness of the identity, Christ mind, as they would say in A Course in Miracles. So I think it's really important. Some of the greater mystical experiences I had came from being totally distraught and really angry and shouting at somebody at the top of my voice. And the next thing was they started to go really pale. They were just holding space, but they started to go really pale and the light cracking all around them. And they started to fade into like a flat, and then they started to all go to light from screaming in distress and frustration. Nobody tells you this. This idea, this like performance related awakening that we've all been doing our best to appear as has to be let go, because like you're talking about, like it's a development of trust. And, first we have discernment. And so we're being discerning. Like, okay, I'm being discerning. And that is a really great stepping stone. And you're discerning between thought systems, you're discerning between, whether you're being puppeted versus whether you're voluntarily and with what God's will for you. And then there's trust. And how you get there, how you get into total trust, because that's beyond discernment. Some people are afraid of it because they're thinking they'll turn into Tyler Durden. I don't know if you remember Tyler Durden from Fight Club. Tyler Durden's the alter ego of the guy who just flips out and starts Fight Club, but doesn't even know he's not just a member trying to get in. He started the whole thing. Because it's a collapse of the trying. It's a collapse of the controlling and the trying to get it wrong or right, because there is no wrong or right in total trust. There has been a development of trust and a handing over and a being under Christ's control, and then there has to be a total release that you couldn't possibly guess that words that look loud and sharp could be less helpful than words that look soft and polished. How could you know? How many of us have been saved by someone yanking us out of traffic, turning around to us and just giving us what for in a second? And you're going, you might not like it in the moment, but afterwards you're going, thank you. Really? Thank you. I've had all these friends sitting here for years. I met you 10 minutes ago. You just gave me what for, but I'm clear. I'm suddenly relieved, it's like Connie was sharing earlier. You might be first shocked by something, but then you're just so totally relieved because it confronts the very thing that you've been dodging or moving around for years. So you can't know. You can't know what's truly. It's like a play. You can't know what will move the scene along, what will, support the crescendo. You just have to allow it to play through in trust. Yes, you're absolutely going to notice if you're, like you said, wanting to be right or feeling justified, like the Course says, or things like that. Even still, if you find yourself in the flow or the flood of something like that, it's nearly impossible to pull it back. It's better to give it over in the moment. I saw myself once in a really snippy sentence coming out, about to lay something on someone that I was angry with. This is years ago. And I saw it halfway through. And by the end of the sentence, having given it over to the Spirit took the sentence over and it landed so completely differently. So this is very immediate, it's so I love what you're saying about, the control, the control element of it coming back and forth and the wanting to be right. And even those, when I hear people about being justified and they're slamming their hands on Bibles and things, I'm like, I'm justified by being a holy child of God. And what justifies that is, I'm sure I don't know. I'm sure I'm mistaken. It's actually been a prayer of mine for a number of years, is if you accept first thing in the morning that you're mistaken and you don't know, there isn't much can hit you throughout the day, so so thank you, Joy.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
Hey, Glenn, you got a question?
Oh, other than how much I'm really appreciating you, Sarah, because it's like if if I could pour out my heart, it was like Yolanda and I are over here just scream. You can't hear us because we're screaming, and to like scream into this thing is like probably not a good idea for the rest of the experience of others. Which
I don't know.
but it's like, we're so. Thank you, so much, and for you've really emphasized one of my favorite things in the world, and that is relationship. So talk a little bit more, if you would, about what you mean and how you construct, or what are you talking about when you say relationship?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for the excitement. It's lovely to join in the passion or whatever is happening. Like we were just saying a minute ago, passion for anger, or passion for like joy or celebration or gratitude, whatever is coming through. I think relationship, I think of it as it's like feedback. I think any relationship, whether it seems to be of this world between people, or whether it's the true relationship with the Father and the Son, whether it's the true relationship with the self, know thyself, self, then it is about reassurance, feedback, clarity, and ultimately acceptance. And, when we seem to be joining with people, when we seem to be joining in this world, it only goes wrong when we think we're joining with people, because our own agenda comes up. Then we imagine their agenda. Then we relate through those two agendas with one another, and all acceptance and innocence and, eventually gets lost. Even if we're for one another, it's conditional, because a person is a mask. It's a condition. It's an ailment. And we are healing from the illusion of that ailment and coming into right relationship with ourselves. And, that's what relationship means to me. And so when I talk about it being with the Holy Spirit, in the end, the experience I have is that the choice is to relate through that relationship with everyone that you seem to encounter. So not instead of authenticity, as well as,
So thank you for bringing about authenticity as a part of this relationship, because I think those are really the foundation. And you even mentioned the sign above Adelphi, the Temple of Adelphi. Goes, do you know who you are?
Yes.
And so that informs every relationship. It creates the construction of the conditions of what we say, what we do, and what everything is for, and what all this material world is doing and reflecting. So, and one of the things that you said that you do, and it was a fundamental practice of mine, and is that when you realize that you have been wrong, when you realize you're wrong, it was like,
all the time, yes.
I'm upset or whatever. So can you talk about the process a little bit, a little bit more about what happens when you're like going, oh my God, I'm wrong, and like what happens when just like the world changes because you realize that you're wrong? Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's actually one of my favorite things. I grew up seemingly dyslexic. So I had to learn very early that I was going to be wrong all the time when it came to tests and spelling and all the basics, of which they're looking at you to see how good you're going to be and they'll do in the world. I would be failing on their scale. And yet I was blessed with teachers that didn't make me feel bad for being wrong. And also parents who also didn't amplify the shame of being wrong. And so, I remember making myself a t-shirt once saying, being wrong rocks, WRONG, being wrong rocks, because there was a need to get comfortable with it. Now, when it seems to be about being wrong and someone else is right, that can seem much harder to let go of. But it's only because there's some idea that there's two, and that the other, by you being wrong, it makes either the world, the society, the institution, or this other person that you're in contention with right. And I remember going to the Holy Spirit at one point and it's like, so infuriating. I can be mistaken. What is sticking here? And it was like, it's just, you think it makes them right. Whereas you being mistaken relieves everyone here of your understanding and their understanding of this. It just relieves there being two. It relieves there being guilty and innocent, you see, by the wrong and the right. This wrong is being mistaken means you're Christ. This being mistaken means you're a holy child of God in innocence. And so is everyone else. So I think this is my feeling, is that it's the letting go of that. That means there's someone else who's right and above and superior to, that makes it harder, because we were still really defended from really getting good with being mistaken, really good at being mistaken. Now I associate being mistaken with being completely relieved, like completely relieved, and seeing how it is. So if there's ever been a confusion, it's been like, I just really want to see, I don't understand. I really want to see where I'm mistaken, is my prayer. I want to see it. And because being relieved and the innocence and the flood and the good nature and the goodwill doesn't always mean that the story in front of you rectifies, but it has no hold over you anymore.
Yes.
It has no hold over you.
So it moves to interest and discovery, and I want to be here, and reality is where I want to be, and interest. Yes. And it's like the perspective completely changed. Instead of taking score in a transactional universe, and then I like metamorphosize, turn myself inside out or outside in into a cooperative component, a co-creator with peace and what is, and I know what to do, and I'm not afraid of not performing my thing, so I'm in danger. And it's just like it accomplishes what I'm actually trying to do, and like not get hurt. You know, it actually, what I'm trying to accomplish, this little need, this character. I love the word when you say the character, because I do care about the character. I've dressed it quite well, and I care about the character.
It's looking good.
I do this character really well. I have invested things in this character. So it's like, I'm not kidding about the character. So it's like, I'm perfectly willing to, it's like, perfect. So thank you for like really illuminating that there's nothing frightening even about the character. The character isn't even out to get me or like make a problem or has to be overcome, or it's like the fundamental thing that must change and which I have to give up this character. So thank you, Connie, for
Kathy's got her hand up.
And Kathy's got her hand up, so it's like,
I'll just say one little thing to that, actually.
All night.
Before we get the next question, I'll just say one little thing about that. Like, when I was talking about like the Tyler Durden moment beyond discernment and showing up correct as the character or the way we prefer as the character, doesn't matter whether you're rebel without a cause or, the minister of the month, it doesn't really matter. It's this sense though of relaxing from the conditions we put on the character to perform that we like, that we will be in agreement with, and however it plays out, coming into a sense of relief and relinquishment. And that's the softening of conditions and preferences. And, it's a deep path, because it looks like you let yourself down a lot. And that's a lot of the being mistaken and the embracing of it. And then finding out that you didn't need to be those ways or have those conditions in place to have the love and intimacy and respect and, acceptance, which is the only reason you had them there in the first place, those conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy, sorry, go ahead.
My audio's been breaking up a little bit, so I'm hoping there's a clear connection, but I thought I would mention that because it could just cut out, you never know. But anyway, I'm grateful to have the opportunity to join with all the like minds here and be back in the Awakening Together community. Thank you, Sarah, for your satsang. My question, I guess I'm not really sure exactly what the question is. I'm following on from really sort of the idea of trust has come up this evening, and as you mentioned, Connie, the characteristics of the teachers of God in the teacher's manual. The first one is trust. The second one is honesty, right? And so, you know, I'm grateful that there is our favorite anarchist is here. So I'm bolstered by that because I really feel like this is an anarchist issue, and it is something I have discussed with both Glenn and Yolanda. But my issue is about, if you will, the elephant in the course, and where the truth teaching that it is actually inconsistent. And we know that it is a non-dual teaching framed in an egoic framework. And so they don't fit together so well. The parts that are not true in the course, which are there to be seen and easily identified and pointed to in the actual application of the teachings. And so, yeah, I feel a little anarchistic talking again about the elephant in the course. So I wonder what your thoughts are about that, if you have any.
Sure. Thank you for your question. I feel actually the way you opened up really addresses it straight off the bat, because the pathway to feeling comforted, which is all awakening is, a pathway of feeling comforted and softening into this relaxation and this shift in identity of feeling safe, can't come when we're pretending. When I heard you say trust, I heard simultaneously the word pretending to trust. So many people pretending to trust, saying they're trusting. You can come as quickly to the experience we're speaking about, and that's all the book is for, by saying, I don't believe you. I don't understand this. I don't like it, and I don't trust you. As, you know, mantras of I trust you, you're good to me, you know, I'm a person in the world, but you're claiming I'm the son of God. It is the connection and the demand and the desire to know. It is the welcome for the awareness of the love that is the activating agent here. It is the welcome for it. It's the show me. It's the defiant show me. Make it obvious. Sweep me off my feet. Because I don't see it, even in this blue book that everyone else seems to like. I don't see it. If you came with that to the spirit, that would be sufficient. That is the answer. The answer is to demand, you know, the spirit doesn't care why you came. If you come flailing with fists, it's just as valid and just as intimate and just as much a welcome as anything else. It's not actually a push away, you see, because that's the unconditional love. And coming into a softening and a safety and a trust is what's valuable. And leaning into an experience beyond what you've experienced before will yield that, but only if it feels safe. And why would you? Why should you? If that's not what it feels like to you. If it feels like the elephant in the room, I wouldn't touch it. I wouldn't go near it. I would say that's not what it feels like to me. It feels very provoking. It feels untrustworthy. It feels, that's more helpful, you know, to just really allow all of authentically what's there up and ask to see what would bring comfort and trust and relaxation and welcome, so that you can welcome it. That's what's valuable. That's what's valuable.
For sure, the welcoming of it doesn't make the untrue aspects disappear. They need collectively to be looked at if we're following the one mind teachings. And you've got languaging that's not honest. If you read the section for the characteristics of God's teachers on honesty, the egoic framework in which the courses couch the messaging is not consistent, it's oppositional, it's contradictory, and it's exclusive. And it need not be. There's no rationale. Like, what is the purpose? If we ask the questions we're taught to ask, what is the purpose? It doesn't take long to see that, oh, well, this is a case of the special attachments that, yes, the Holy Spirit does not ask us to give them up. But we're also not told that we have to keep it, except in the course community, which is following editorial imperatives that adhere to Judeo-Christian teaching that's not applicable to what the teachings are all about in truth. And so what happens to the truth? The truth can't be, well, it's true here, but this part over there, well, we'll let that be true this time. It doesn't work that way. We've all read the stuff on only the truth is true. You can't have a little bit of the truth not be true to serve the purposes. So we're given all the information to see the elephant, but nobody wants to talk about it. And in fact, you become anarchistic if you even point to it or allude to it, because, you know, we're rocking the boat here. We're upsetting the status quo. And this just all has arisen out of the course based on editorial imperatives that actually are not even consistent with what's identified as the two principal guidelines, which is that, number one, that the course appeals to the general readership. That's one of them. And that it respects the messages. So if we take a look at the general,
well, let's take a look at it. Let's take a look at it, because you've raised some really good points there. Like, let's take a look at honesty. Okay, because honesty, according to the course, I'll just use the course framework since you brought it up. I'll talk about any pathway. A Course in Miracles talks about honesty as being consistency. And let's talk about it practically. It also talks about the special relationship, which people always think is between people. The special relationship is with this universe. The specialness is with your sense of self. The specialness is just attachment. And in A Course in Miracles, for me, it's the giving over of everything you love to the Spirit, not to take away. That would be sacrifice. That would be awful. To give it over, to make it especially helpful for awakening, to use it as a draw. So here's something I already love. I already love this person. I'm already attracted here. This is where I feel safe and secure. Anyone who believes that the Spirit is trying to take people away from them isn't really, and I'm really glad to be able to share this, fully getting the consistency of the honesty that the Spirit is going for, because it's a very deep experience. And of course, everything that's fearful for us flushes up first. So we're being asked to give those that we may identify or feel we have a special relationship with, whether it's the bunny outside or the fact that we like summer or, water's our favorite drink. It doesn't really matter. There's no hierarchy. We're asked to give all of that attraction over to the spirit, all of that desire to repurpose for coming into peace, which is the only goal of the course. It has no goal, at least for its students, if you feel it's your pathway. And then in the honesty is on a daily basis. It's not being honest as in truthful. It means consistently seeing where, no, actually, I don't even want to hand it to you because I think you'll take it from me. And coming into, an honesty and, an authenticity with the fear that's arising, the threat we experience with it, all of those feelings. Because the spirit needs happy learners. And so the spirit will take whatever you bring, even like I said, fists shaking, and say, I see exactly what you're saying. I totally appreciate what you're saying. Now come in and work with me, because that book is a springboard for getting you to feel safe with your higher self. Come in with me. Let's bring all of those thoughts like specialness and honesty and consistency and trust. And let's work with things you already love, you already feel safe with, and we'll just expand on that feeling so that what happens is that everything feels like it's your favorite preference. Not that your favorite preference gets taken away and everything becomes bland. Let's work with it so that the love you already have for that part of your family or your little dog or the house you live in or the routine you live in, that safety expands, that you could now be in another city or town without having to move there and feel just as safe and feel just as undefended as you do in your own home where you get to lock your own door and feel safe. And so the spirit's looking to, it's the development of the sameness of everything in our seeing, so that the elephant in the room that nobody else seems to want to talk about, that's upsetting us and constantly bothering us, is a valid way to come to the spirit, to bring up that upset that's there wherever we see it, it doesn't matter, and to be shown again and again as many times as possible and convinced. It's the spirit's job to convince you. We're not supposed to somehow just go, okay, I'm going to trust, like we were talking about earlier. It's our job to be convinced by the spirit why it's safe to trust. And that can only be by harnessing what you already love and expanding it, where you already feel safe and expanding it. It can't be about choosing something you have no trust in and no safety with. You wouldn't be asked to do that. It just wouldn't be your path. And then it wouldn't bother you if it's not your path either. It's only meant as a springboard. So the springboard that's for you, and I can feel that there's a trust in the awakening and there's a trust in the deepening. Forget Christianity. That's not relevant for you. That's not relevant. Some of us use those terms. I had a lot of healing to do with those terms. It's really just about you, the intimacy, the safety, the honesty, meaning consistency of bringing towards you that safety in the mind, that relief, that relaxation, and in a way that as it comes towards you, it's easy to welcome. And there isn't anything going on in any book anywhere. It's all blank, it really is. And I remember even in a marriage ceremony saying, I don't think I can say, I promise to be truthful. I said, because inherently, human beings are not truthful, just inherently. I said, I can say, I will do my best to be honest, because for me, what that means is that I come back later and I go, okay, you know what I said earlier? Yeah, I was wrong. I didn't even really believe that, but I said it to you anyway. I feel this, and I was ashamed, and I felt conflicted, and I felt hurt and scared and put upon. And so I came up with that sentence out of nowhere. But eventually you start to see, that the one who's speaking isn't you. So it doesn't matter whether it's got a fist in the air or whether it's giving a peace sign, or whether it's blowing kisses of love. The one that's speaking, the character self, isn't you. And it's whom you listen with and not who you listen to that matters. Whom you listen with. And no one can control who you're choosing to listen with. And no one can manipulate you when you choose who you choose to listen with. And when you listen with the Spirit, there is a sense of safety. And it doesn't matter what the others are saying or thinking or believing. It matters what the inner dialogue, the inner commentary, the inner nurturing and comfort that's coming through to you. That's all that matters. And for me, when I opened the book, like I said, before I even read it, I started to feel that. And I would say, if that's not your experience, I would definitely close it and know that the Spirit definitely wants you to have that experience, however is helpful. So thank you so much for your comment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everybody. Sarah, I could feel the safety that I don't think I ever felt before. So like it's okay. So that's really great. And everybody that's listening, if you feel to donate, this is what Sarah does. So thank you again.
Thank you, Connie. So lovely to join with you all today. Much love. Thank you.
Thank you for watching our Satsang. We hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to join us live, please remember you can do so by visiting our website, awakening-together.org. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary. Again, our website is awakening-together.org. Remember to click the bell for more notifications and subscribe.